Hey gang, how are y'all doing? Thank you so much for tuning in. I wanted to provide a little shorter bonus video for you guys because that Frost video took me so long. Not supposed to cuss in the first like 5 minutes of the video or whatever. Anyways, today's video is a real quick little yap sesh, quick by my standards, about evade and how I think it's a little bit. It comes off. It basically gets the short end of the stick in terms of like I just don't see a lot of people running it. It's not like Cyte-09 is a hard farm or whatever like that. People just tend to default towards Nourish and Roar, which those are great abilities. I mean, the energy efficiency from Nourish rather is like one of my favorite things ever. It makes every build instantly comfortable, and you're getting viral damage, viral status. It's really good. Roar is good for obvious reasons. In terms of survivability, you know, there's really stark competition. You've got Eclipse, which is just a free 75% thoughtless DR, incredibly good. And then Condemn and Pillage, which should give you like super easy on command shields. Meanwhile, Evade, yeah, it gives you the second best form of survivability in the game, which is invisibility. So the only thing that's better is sort of invincibility, which very few frames have access to. But the condition of weak points is something not a lot of players care for. It's a level of active gameplay, and when you're playing with friends or you're even just any public lobby, enemies are kind of everywhere, and getting those weak point kills consistently can be really difficult. Evade, if you're a solo player, is like insanely broken. If you're someone who prides themselves on solo play and that's how you find Warframe fun, oh my god, please get a copy of Cyte-09 and run Evade on like even the most obscure of frames, and you will probably enjoy it a whole lot, especially if you use a weapon that supports it. So we're gonna take a look at Evade, see what it does. The combo I run, because the combo I run with it actually turns it into a damage ability. Is it any kind of Roar? No, not necessarily. Not as good, maybe not even as good as Roar. But like this combination lets you change your build fundamentally in order to house it, and like gives you more mod room. A couple of cases where you might want to run it is if you have less power strength but more duration. Roar and Nourish both want a decent bit of strength, especially because Roar is so heavily nerfed by the Helminth that if your strength isn't above, like, this is just my opinion, if your strength isn't above like 200%, there isn't a whole lot of point to running Roar. You should just run like extra quality of life, you know, some sort of like survivability, or again, Evade. Like run something different that's, I don't know how to explain it, but basically Roar isn't that useful unless you're building a ton of strength. So some reasons to run Evade is obviously this, you know, you don't have a ton of strength, you have a ton of duration built in. A lot of people care a lot about, and this is kind of like me, they care about the aesthetic of what they're running in terms of a Helminth ability. For example, if they're playing Ureli, they might not want Roar on there because that like mixes aesthetics that doesn't feel good, and Warframe, like Fashion Frame is endgame, everyone knows that. So having like a put together cohesive look and feel to your frame, Roar is kind of a little bit too masculine for some people. Same with Nourish. So Evade is, hey, Evade's very feminine, you know, give it a try. So let's take a look. Here we go. Okay. So Evade, your Warframe hops backwards and becomes invisible for a short duration. Killing enemies on their weak points extends the duration and heals you. The Helminth nerf is quite severe and makes this sell for me. Like I'm trying to make a case for Evade. It makes it really tough. 25-second cap. Technically though, indefinitely, it's capped at 25, so you have to keep killing. 25 seconds is a pretty short duration. If you play a lot of Warframe, you know that you want your buffs to last like 30 to 40 seconds. This is my opinion, of course, but I would say most players agree that when you're building a duration-based ability, a buff or debuff, whatever, you want it to last like 30 to 40 seconds. It's not a requirement, just it's quality of life. On this build, it starts out with 22 seconds, but the base goes from 15 on Cyte-09 to 10 seconds starting. This is the Harrow build. I have a few builds I'm going to be showing you on a few different frames. And I guess I'll tell you right now, those builds are on Harrow, they're on Kullervo, they're on Banshee, and they are on Lavos. So I'm just letting you know ahead of time because that won't be in the thumbnail or title. Actually, maybe it will. I don't know. Anyway. So yeah, you heal on kill, and you on the weak point kills, you heal and you extend the duration of your invis. That max duration on the bottom there is irrelevant because the actual maximum duration is 25 seconds. All of these things scale with duration, and then the health per kill scales with strength. You don't need much strength Don't worry about that too much. 100 health on kill when you're killing as many enemies as you do later in the game, when you would need something like evade. 100 per kill is totally fine. Harrow likes duration, so this is a bit of a more generous, fun build. Some of the builds are a little bit more uptight with duration, and that's where my case of evade is kind of frustrating to keep up all the time is a lot more relevant. Again, you have teammates. You can't give the Grenadier back shots, right? Because they turn around and you can't shoot them in the back of the head and get a weak point kill. Super frustrating. So if you have teammates pulling aggro every which way, that just becomes a lot. But I'm still going to make my case here because I do think it's a very valid one, and a lot of people have a lot to learn from this. I think it's super fun. And Warframe is about options. If one thing is meta, it's super unfun. That's how this game dies. Unfortunately, DE has given like so many options in terms of weapons. Like every frame is good except for like one or two. God, Oberon, please, my sweet darling. Or if someone knows how to play them, you could teach me. But I think that frame is buns. Anyway, okay, moving on. So what's the combo here to get damage out of evade? So we have the second best form of survivability. We have invisibility. But now how do we get damage out of it? Because I'm asking you to remove Roar from your build to add this bum-ass evade here. So what's the sell? The combination is 4 pieces. It is Combat Discipline, Archon Intensify, Avenger, and then Crepuscular is kind of in like the metaphorical cuck chair in this combo because it just works on its own. It's kind of on its grind set while the rest of these all work together. Crepuscular is simply, while invisible, gain 30% ability strength and 3x final critical damage. That's insane. That's half of an augmented, and that's 3x. Like, there isn't sources like that in the game very often. So yeah, you're getting a ton of crit damage and 30% ability strength just for being in evade. That's it. You might as well tag that onto the ability when you run this augment. Now let's talk about this combo here that I'm trying to sell to you. Combat Discipline, you lose 10 health on kill, squad mates gain 20 health on kill. This is just a way to safely remove little bits of health that we're going to quickly, basically right away, heal back with evade. The reason that we're manipulating health is because we have Archon Intensify, which is a flat 30% ability strength. Restoring health with abilities grants 30% ability strength for 10 seconds. This means that as long as evade is up and enemies are dying, this Archon Intensify might as well say 60% ability strength. That is so good. That is a 30% from here and a 30% from here is a full molt augmented for just having an ability up and killing enemies. And you can still run molt augmented right here. There's builds where I usually do. However, the other part here is Arcane Avenger. On damage, 21% chance for 45% critical chance for 12 seconds. We're taking damage from Combat Discipline, and that means that we get 45%. This is flat critical chance. If you don't understand what that means, it means that it's not based off of your weapon's base stats. If your weapon has 0% crit chance, on damaged, you have a 21% chance to have that weapon have 45% critical chance. This is insanely broken and insanely strong. It's the reason that there's not much of it in this game. Temple's got a debuff that applies it. Harrow actually is one of the only sources of this flap kind of buff. So Harrow has, 2 of them are in front of you right now. Covenant and Avenger. 2 sources of flat crit chance. Insanely good. The only time you wouldn't want something like that, and I can show you with builds, is when you have like a ton of crit chance, you want to start weighting your damage into other places. You don't want to like if you're using like Electron, Prime, and Karnan, and you've already got 200% crit chance, that's when Arcane Avenger is like, okay, maybe we redistribute into something else, base damage or quality of life, survivability, if we can get crit damage again. But in this case, we are getting 60% power strength, Archon Intensify, Crepuscular. We are getting crit damage from Crepuscular and crit rate, flat crit rate, so indifferent of where it goes, from Avenger. This is like insane. We're getting like a little bit of everything. Damage for our frames, damage for our weapons. If you don't really use much in the weapon department, you'll still get the ability strength from Crepuscular, but you can exchange the Avenger for Augmented. You can also use Efficiency, which helps with the duration for evade, and if you're a caster Warframe, maybe that's nice for you. Or you can use Vigor, I believe it's called. Yeah, so that's 45% ability strength on cast, if you want to use that instead of Augmented. But basically, this combination gives you a little bit of everything, and it's super good. This is like pretty decent investment. I think Crepuscular is really easy to get once you get to 1999. Avenger's a bit tricky to get, but if you've played the events in the past, the Belly of the Beast events, it shouldn't be hard. Combat Discipline is an easy get. Arcana Intensify is some collimation stuff. Listen, man, I did my service. You can do yours too. I believe in you. But anyways, another thing I want to touch on before I do my demonstration, talk about some downsides, and show you what's up, is this requires like such minimal investment. This is kind of a poor example, so I'll shift over to like the Banshee build, so you can kind of get a better understanding of what's going on. This uses Worthy Camaraderie, which you're going to want. It's another great option if you're not going to run the full combo, which as you can see here, I totally could, but I want Augmented because I want to amplify my sonar. But I could totally, and honestly, quite frankly, should. I just didn't want a Forma. I should put the full combo onto this Banshee. I totally can. Intensify sitting right here. Augmented could be swapped out. Like, I totally could. But Worthy Camaraderie is a great budget option that you'll get fairly early on. And, you know, players are I have so many copies of this. Ask for it if you want it. But it basically just gives you weak point critical chance, which is good because you're obviously aiming for the weak points using Evade. But as you can see here, even on this Banshee build, instead of 22 seconds, it's like 18 seconds, which is just a little less comfortable for a duration. But again, you can get it up to 25 as long as you keep getting headshot kills. Anyways, where was I going? Okay. Basically, the premise here is that you just kind of need duration. That's it. If you are building Roar, Nourish, a lot of these are not really Eclipse. Eclipse is actually pretty low investment. Pillage is decent investment. Condemn is pretty low investment. But I'm mainly making a case here for competition against Roar and Nourish, which are like just such the big kahunas of Helminth, which I think is super annoying. But I get it. I understand why people like it. Evade, all Evade asks of you is duration. You don't need the strength at all. So you just need literally a continuity. And here I do have a message in here. I think it makes it more comfortable. Again, the duration and the duration per kill both scale off duration. So all you need is these two mods, as opposed to, oh, I need to put together all the power strength possibly that I can to make Roar worth it or Nourish worth it. Plus duration. Here you just need the duration, which means you can kind of pivot around, and you can make the case here with Banshee. Oh, like Roar would be insane here. You know, you have 313% strength. Then I don't get to live. And I kind of got beef with that, quite frankly. And that's kind of the case I'm going to make here with a lot of these frames. I'm going to explain why I chose. I'm not just slap and evade randomly, which I think you can do. Have fun, build however you want. But I'm going to sit here and make the case for each frame and why I put evade on them, and kind of the band-aid I'm trying to put on for each of their problems. So I'm going to get into each build, explain everything in a second. Hope you guys are enjoying the video. Don't forget to drop a sub or like or whatever. I appreciate you guys so much. I'm actually putting pretty good effort at 3 in the morning to get this done for you guys on a Friday. So take care. We're gonna get to the builds. Thank you for your patience. Okay, so I wanted to start with my most engaging case study for me, which is Kullervo. So this is obviously, I'm sure you could piece it together when I said his name. This is gonna be Sniper Kullervo that utilizes Collective Curse, high range, in order to kill a ton of enemies with one bullet. One of the only ways that snipers are like pseudo viable. I think they're still viable. This kind of build just makes it so snipers are good with very little work, which is super fun. I really enjoy that playstyle. Having an alternate playstyle on a traditional melee Warframe is super sick. So this is the build. This is actually this is some Tony Stark put this together in a cave with scraps ass build. It's not great. Notably, you don't actually like much power strength. Your goal is just to get the damage redirection to 100%. This is sitting at 92. If I took the time to form him again, I would have power drift here, and then I would be able to have 100. Regardless, I have multi-augmented here and crepuscular here, so it's going to get to 100% no matter what. Evade here, the initial cast is 15 seconds, which is really pitiful. And the max duration is 20. Again, if I could, I would probably sit down and change this build up. But, and here's my melee Kullervo build, by the way. If you want that, you're welcome to it. And Worthy Camaraderie here as well. So yeah, we want range, except we don't really want to take. You're welcome to, but the long distance on Collective Curse, like the length, is just not the most relevant thing to me. Rooms don't get much longer than in this case is 44 meters. It would be a different story if the angle changed for Collective Curse with range. It does not, so you don't need that much range. That's why Overextended is not on here. Also, it means you don't have to build around like the strength penalty that Overextended provides. So this one I'll show you pretty simple. This is one I've playtested a ton. Also, it's very nice. I'm using the Ceramic Dagger here, which means as I'm getting kills with my Vectus Prime, I guess I could show you that build as well. As I'm getting kills with the Vectus Prime, the passive on the Ceramic Dagger is stacking up, which means I'll end up with a ton of initial combo, which means I can still, this build can still easily use Wrathful Advance. If an Acolyte spawns on me, I'll just press the Wrathful Advance on them and they will no longer be with us. And that's a ton of fun. Here's the Vectus Prime build. I do have a pretty good ribbon. That's minus multi-shot on an Acuity build. But the build is, I mean, it's really nothing special, ultimately. Okay, so let's spawn some enemies, and I'll just show you how simple it is. So the reason that we run Evade on Kullervo is because he relies heavily on overgating. This is just spamming Recompense, his 2 that I just cast for a second there, to give myself Overguard. Eventually, enemies will tear through it really quick. It's not really Dante levels of Overguard, which is kind of lame. You don't really want to have to spam your 2 over and over to live at later levels. You don't want to really get Carpal Tunnel. Pretty sure that's kind of lame. So this build provides a second playstyle for Kullervo and another option for Sniper Kullervo. So all you'll see here is I'll press 3, scope in. Enemies die pretty quick. 2 shots there. I'll just do it again real quick for you, and I'll evade this time. They are all gone. Note that like pretty high enemy density is involved. It's also a pretty active playstyle, so one downside with Evade you'll notice is if you didn't spend your childhood being called multilingual slurs by people on Counter-Strike Global Offensive, you might want to get like some aim labs going, because you want to keep this ability up. If it goes down, you're probably going to die, and that's kind of lame. Kullervo is like an example where that might not be the case, because he does get to overgate over and over. It's just at the expense of your fingers, and I want you to be safe. So again, one headshot, the enemies just fall over and die. The only downside with this setup is that you're going to have to get pretty good at learning when you need to spam shots and then learning when to Collective Curse and wipe everyone. But trust me, if you're playing this in a solo environment, this build goes absolutely crazy and it's super fun. So we'll get on to the next case study. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments, so on and so forth. But this is definitely one of my favorites. Our next case study is Lavos. Not one of my favorite frames, but definitely one whose aesthetic I enjoy and who I think makes such a good candidate for Evade. For a variety of reasons, actually. This one's a bit interesting. Again, Mecha Empowered is just too goddamn strong on this character, so I run it instead. I'm not changing his form a slot. You're spoken crazy. He also does not use Intensify in his main build, or at least the build I have set up for him. So I elected not to go for that. But I do have Crepuscular here, of course, and a comfortable amount of duration, which Lavos wants anyway. One thing to note about Lavos and why he's such a good candidate is that using his Transmutation Probe and Swift Bite, we can actually reduce the cooldown of Evade. It's a cooldown ability. In Lavos, that's all he does, which is huge, and it makes it so much more viable. Because in a more realistic, and Lavos is one of the only frames I'll play in a multiplayer setting, because in multiplayer settings your Evade will drop all the time. It sucks, but Lavos can get it back up really effectively using, again, Transmutation Probe and Swift Bite. Feels super good. So I'm going to show you guys kind of, it's really basic, but in other cases, Lavos is one who relies on health tanking, his Universal Orb, status immunity, all that stuff. Health tanking, overgating, overguard, it all stops working once you get towards super late game. And if it doesn't stop working, it's just at minimum, it becomes incredibly uncomfortable. And Warframe is kind of supposed to be a comfortable game last I checked. So we'll just pop on some Valence Formation. I'll just pop on some heat here, away from the enemies, hopefully. And I will evade. And just start popping heads with the Ceto Primary is what I'm using. One thing to note, and you'll see it now in the lower left, or lower right rather, for a reason that is unbeknownst to me, I should probably file a bug report. Lavos can surpass the Helminth restriction on evade. I don't know why. I don't know why he does that. I don't know how to code. So yeah, he can. And notice this isn't even like his max duration here is 28 seconds or 27 seconds. You saw like a 31 or a 32. Like I do this going into it. For some reason, Lavos bends reality, and you get extra time on evade. I have no clue why that is, but I will do one more quick little demonstration here. And I've got an energy bar on Lavos, even though he doesn't have energy. That is strange. So yep, just popping heads. I didn't valence heat on this time, so it's not nearly as effective. And obviously, if I wanted to pull out the dual toxis here, which is usually what I use with Lavos, then that would make for a little bit of an easier sampling. But yeah, pretty simple. Lavos would also be a pretty good candidate for the health restore stuff. You also would be healing anyway, so you wouldn't have to. It's basically, you really just should be. The mecha set's a little bit too good. But again, if you decided you wanted to run the Avenger setup here, you totally could. Lavos, it widens the weapon pool quite a bit. The Cedo Prime having 100% critical chance instead of 72% is really good. You would gain that 45% on top. You'd have above 100% crit chance, actually. So, yeah, widening weapon pools is something that Evade does really well with Avenger and Crepuscular. It means you get to try all sorts of weapons that you might normally not stack up very well with, like, the main Incarnans and all that crap. So we're going to get on to my next case study. Hopefully, guys, that was useful to you. Again, any questions, drop them in the comments. These aren't fully thought-through builds. These aren't optimized builds. This is more of a proof of concept. All right, next we have Banshee. So this is the one I showed you earlier. You've seen the build. The reason we run it on Banshee is a little different. Banshee doesn't health tank. Banshee doesn't overgate. Banshee doesn't have shit. So we run Evade purely for this survivability, and we just try to work around and make it into something more. In this case, using Crepuscular, Worthy Camaraderie is here, but Banshee could easily run the Combat Discipline Avenger setup if I wanted to, but I do care about Sonar quite a bit because it's a funny gimmick ability that I love to death, so I'm going to keep using that. I do use Resonance in here. I think it's kind of mandatory on Banshee. Banshee doesn't get a lot of play, but I think that she's very underrated. I think Evade makes her feel insanely playable, especially in the solo content where I do believe she thrives. So I'll show you the build. Also, Banshee is a great candidate for another reason. Silence is like super good. It's just the problem is it's not worth Helminthing over things like Eclipse, over things like Roar, over things like Nourish. So what ends up happening is you don't ever get to use it on your other frames because Roar takes up the Silence slot. But Silence comes built in for Banshee, which is super good. So we'll cast Silence, we'll cast Evade, and then we'll double Sonar because Sonar stacks. And we'll use both weapons here, but as you can see, I just need to get this stacked up a little bit. Also, I got kind of unlucky with my Sonar marks. Come on. If I just hit the Sonar marks, I aim for the head instinctually, and it's a bit of a counter synergy, unfortunately, with a setup like this. Is unfortunately, so like you need to hit headshots, but also Banshee doesn't always mark the head for you, which is pretty lame. One thing I'm not a huge fan of, but being able to like use the Vesper and hit for the funny Vesper numbers is like one of my favorite things ever. So we'll do this again, and again, you might get unlucky with the marks. I'd say it's the least fun part about this playstyle, but again, with Banshee, you are really doing this just to stay alive. It's not the same luxury that like my other setups have, where pre-Steel Path and even early Steel Path, you can easily survive on Lavos, on Kullervo, on Harrow. But this frame needs Evade to stay alive, so beggars can't be choosers in that department. You're just gonna have to lock in, I guess. The gas procs are pretty good. If I had a different setup, this is an Acuity build, so it's a little bit different. And we'll just do one more little wipe here with the Subversive Incarnate version on, because I think that's like the most accurate way to tell what's going on here. But again, you can really use any weapon. The problem with Evade is that some weapons kind of get gated out of it, but that's okay because I think the players that run Evade are the ones who like the marksmanship weapons. Also, quick note, oh my god, the sound design on Evade is like my favorite thing ever. Like the sounds it makes going in and out of it Holy shit, it's so peak. So I'll show the build one more time. Again, very basic, but understand the premise that you aren't investing much and you get so much. You put evade on your Warframe, you slap on primed continuity and messages for feeling yourself. Crepuscular, boom, you've gained like a ton of stats, and then you can run the whole combo if you want to, which I'm about to show with Harrow, which is our final case study here. I'll wrap it up, and then I'm going to take my ass to bed. So here we go. Alright, this is the Harrow setup here, as I've already described the build for you. Lasting Covenant is like super good for this setup in particular, because you're maintaining 2 different combos with headshots, which is pretty fun. This is headshots in specific. I don't think this is weak points. Very unfortunate. But anyway, I will now display to you just how insane this is, and I'm not going to build any Covenant damage either. The Sporothrix is a weapon that, again, I'll show you. It's like the example I mentioned earlier. It's got 5% crit chance. So Avenger is effectively giving it 50% crit chance, which means we build fully into crit damage and status and other stats. So I'll turn the enemies on here. I'll pop into the evade. Oh, Kullervo kept us overguard. That's annoying. And I will just scope in and start shooting. So I'll lose health and then regain it. And now note that you don't really need the evade heal as much on Harrow, because Harrow does heal himself through penance. But this also means you don't have to have penance up all the time. That's kind of BS, because you're going to have penance on no matter what with Harrow. And I guess a quick note to any Harrow players. It's a very unique playstyle. You can still like walk up and condemn people and then recharge your shields, but you're basically treating penance as if it has a cooldown. So as you can see, my shields have just recharged to full, and I'm just gonna penance again and just keep stacking it that way instead of the active playstyle that you would normally use. But yeah, Invisible Harrow is like actually insane. It's not the setup I always go, because I prefer like Harrow's base kit. Like Harrow is my Helminth-less king. Like I love that frame. But this is a fun, unique, like alternative way to play it. And yeah, this is the more basic one. I think people, the only reason I'm not talking much about Harrow here is because a lot of people are already kind of familiar with Evade Harrow, I think. But yeah, we're gonna get into a little like I'm gonna try to cover any base that I haven't covered yet. Conclude here, and then I'll be out of your hair. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in a second. Alright, so for my little conclusion here, I actually decided I am going to do a quick little demonstration. This won't be a full one, but basically I wanted to show you the Kullervo build, because I think it's the most fun. I love Sniper Kullervo. But basically, let's quickly, oh, how fitting. I have a marksman Nightwave challenge. Anyways, what I want to touch on is the main upsides with Evade is that you're getting survivability and you're getting damage through a setup. Roar gives that damage like outright, so you could make the case pretty easily that like, oh, that's not really, you know, Evade isn't really necessary because of that. I just think Evade symbolizes something really nice in Warframe, and that is choice. Choice is like the most important thing ever with Warframe, in life in general, but that's not what we're here to discuss. The ability to say, oh, I just want to play like Wisp today. Like that's what I'm in the mood to do. I can decide to play Wisp with base kit. I can decide to throw Roar on there. I can decide to throw whatever I want on there. But that's kind of the beauty of something like Evade. It might not be the best choice, but it needs to feel, oh my god, Stalker's jumping me while, come on, buddy. But it needs to feel like there's a reason to try everything, right? I've got some overguard, I should be fine. The main downside is that when Evade goes down, you're gonna feel it, and it's gonna make the game kind of like you don't want to play it. So if you feel like you have poor aim, maybe it's just not for you, right? Or you know, figure it out. A big inhibiting factor as well is, one second, let me lock in and take this geek out. Anyway, okay, there we go. Get my Evade back up. Anyways, so one of the, I guess I could have Wrathful Advanced in there. But one of the big, like, issues with it is if it goes down, it's a 60-second cooldown, and that is not fun because you're out an ability that provides you your survivability. It provides you a ton of your damage, and also like you're straight up like killing yourself with combat discipline at that point. So that's just not great. You need to. And that means that if you're using a suboptimal weapon for it, you're gonna feel it like right away, and that's not great. because again, I literally just made the point of like, hey, choice is really good. Evade feels in many cases like less of a ability and more of an augment you've put on your weapon, and that's fine. I'm okay with that personally. That's the cost. If that's the cost of giving every Warframe access to like a skill-based invisibility, which if you told like little me, you know, what, like 10 years ago when I started playing this game, that we would get a skill-based invisibility on like every Warframe, I would just tell you you're lying to my face. But yeah, that's what we got. And if the cost of it is an ability that feels kind of more like an augment to a weapon, I'm totally cool with that. But yeah, you know, you're not going to be able to do your AoE stuff as much. You know, you're gonna have to do a little bit more setup involved with it. I do believe evade actually works with melee, which is interesting. I don't know much about that, which is why I never really made that a point of the video, but it is a thing. Like, if you can headshot with melees in this game, that I do know for sure, and I've definitely tried it. It's just I haven't been able to get it consistently working. I believe you just have to have like a high range weapon. But oh my god, this is about to become a full demonstration. No, it's not. I won't let it. Okay. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions below, drop them. This is a whole new setup I'm trying to figure out. These shorter videos are a little bit tricky for me because I just write a really vague script, and that's all. But I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys learned something. The goal, again, is to give you more choice. One of the problems with Warframe is that there is just so much information. You don't really feel like you have much of in the way of choices, so you just consume guide content all day. That's totally okay. I just want you to know that there are fun, exciting, active options out there that you can take instead of the average roar. If you finish this video, you decide, I just want to put roar on every single Warframe, shut up, Mr. YouTuber guy. Totally fair, dude. Absolutely do that. But I just made this video to present to you an alternative solution. That's all. So take care. Have a good night and day. Enjoy your weekend, and I'll talk to you very soon. Thank you guys so much for your time. I so much love for you guys. Thank you. Take care. Goodbye.